And okay, so we've got Oz on the phone with me today. Thank you for hopping on the phone with me, Oz.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so I'm excited because we've talked in the past quite a bit about your personal experience with the Rite of Passage program from Enter the Kettlebell. Can you tell me where you first came across the workout?
Absolutely. So I feel like I got really lucky because I first heard Sarah Lurie, the founder of Iron Core, on the radio. I don't remember which station it was, but I just remember hearing this lady talking highly about this kettlebell thing. And I was aware of kettlebells, but I really wasn't aware of the intricacies, the technique, the idea that there's like a hard style and there's like a sport and all these different things. So
And what year was this, roughly?
yeah, so this was in 2005.
Great.
Okay. And I was already working as a trainer, and I just went to the workshop. It was a free workshop in La Jolla, and it was a 1 hour workshop. And the moment I saw the movement, I was like, oh man, this is good. Like I needed no more convincing. Like I didn't get any sales pitch, any in-depth. I just saw the movement and I knew that it would be complementative to the things that I had already been doing and the things that I pursued as a practitioner. So I walked away from the workshop knowing that I could get a kettlebell and on the Dragon Door website, and that there was this guy out there named Pavel that was like, the man when it came to kettlebells, right? So
Okay.
I went home and I checked out the website because I needed a kettlebell, which by the way, I purchased a 20 kilo at the time. And while I was on the website, I saw the book, Enter the Kettlebell. And I just bought it. I mean, it wasn't anything that I knew that it was a great book, that it would be the most elegant training that I would ever do. Even to this day, I still consider it to be the most elegant of all the things that I've ever done. If you must choose one thing only, like this definitely is it. And, the book arrived before the kettlebell. So that was good because I was able to, just you read that book from beginning to end entirely and just really get a good sense of what I would have to do. And when the kettlebell arrived, I just started applying, and just like the book says, it was a process of learning the fundamentals that I needed before I began the regime itself. And I think I must have spent maybe a couple of months just finessing the basics. And then on I went with my what would become a 3-year journey of doing nothing but Rite of Passage.
3 years, nothing but Rite of Passage.
Correct. I know.
So from 2005 to 2008, you did the Rite of Passage as in the book.
I did. And I know that sounds crazy. In today's environment, people, are always jumping around. Oh, I'm going to do this program now and that program now. And people just jump around a lot. But at the time, I was dancing with the Modern Dance Company. So one of the things that was troublesome for me was doing like conventional training, like working out, like kind of like traditional bodybuilding style things, like working with barbells and dumbbells in a 3x10, muscle splits, legs and shoulders, back and buys, chest and tries, things like that. It was troublesome for me to fit that into the dance regime because we were rehearsing Tuesdays and Thursdays and we're performing most weekends, and I was taking class the rest of the days. So I was essentially dancing all week. And in addition to that, I had to try to fit in this conventional training workouts. And nothing against them, I still like them and do them and used to move my clients, but it didn't fit that lifestyle that I had as a dancer, as a performer, where the kettlebell did. The Rite of Passage really fit that schedule for me. And so it facilitated a lot of things for me. It opened up a lot of time, and it kept me, in excellent shape, like all things covered, considering the other activity that I was doing, in addition to.
Right. And for people that don't really know you that well, you are very excelled in your bodyweight practice. So one part of ETK that you have talked about previously is that you do in fact include the pull-ups
Yep.
as part of the program. And the other day you mentioned that sometimes you have doubled up on that.
Yeah. So I in the beginning I just followed the protocol exactly as it said without the pull-ups, and I think I must have been doing the 20 kilo for at least maybe the first year. I want to say I'm honestly not like 100% sure about that, but I think it was about the first year. Shortly before I started incorporating the 20 kilo, I started incorporating the pull-ups, and I just did the traditional 1 through 5 ladder, and there's a 1-to-1 ratio with the presses on all 3 days. When I transitioned to the 24 kilo, my hands were conditioned enough to where they could take it, even though I was still doing clean and press in every practice with the pull-ups. And occasionally, once I doubled up, right? Because that was the kind of thing where you were hinting at. It's like at some point in between those 3 years, let's say that it was like a year and a half into it, more or less. That seems reasonable. I started to do a 2-to-1 pull-ups to presses ratio. So on my hard days, I was doing 150 pull-ups and 75 clean and presses on each side.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I did the TSC around that time too. I did it twice around that time. And I think my first one, I think I did like 27 pull-ups, which is the most that I've ever done. So, that definitely helped out a lot.
Right. So your sets of pull-ups weren't nearing, say, your max in any way, shape, or form. Even doing 10, you were well below 50%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. And then another thing that you've mentioned in the past that you've done slightly off of the book is also performing the Rite of Passage with double bells.
Yes. And I think that's really cool, especially when the subsequent book came out, Return of the Kettlebell, and there was a lot of double kettlebell work. Of course, the composition of that and the aim and the goals are completely different, but just the idea of having double bells to just create more muscle mass. And I didn't experience that because of my diet and my activities outside of the kettlebell training, right? Like, so, I was eating really clean, mostly because I was dancing, and, a lot of times I had to be on stage with my shirt off and stuff like that. So I had to be lean. But it was also because I had been training with one kettlebell, and when I incorporated the two, what I experienced was more power, but I didn't really gain any size. Like, there was no noticeable change in size for me, but I got way more powerful.
And were you doing the doubles with the 20 kilo, or was this after you had gone to the 24?
It was after I went to the 24. Once I passed that first year or so with the 20 kilo, I never really gone back to it, at least not for the Rite of Passage. Every time I do the Rite of Passage again, I start with the 24. And I've done it with the 28 as well. Towards the end of that run, I went to a single 28 kilo, and I was able to complete the 5 ladders on Saturdays. The most challenging part about the 20 kilo was Mondays for the snatches. My hands just did not keep up very well with that. And I think I've gotten better now. I'm currently doing this again. I just started about 2 weeks ago. So it's like the return of Enter the Kettlebell, if you will. And I'm excited because I feel like I have so much more experience now. And, my first month, the first time I did it, even with the 20 kilo was tough. It was hard. And this time I just feel really grooved out, and like everything is going really well. And so my plan now is to do single 24 for the first month, double 24s for the second month, and then jump to the single 28 for the third month and stop. And I just want to see what that does for me, because I've never done it in that short of a time, right? In the past, I've always done it for extended periods of time. Even after those 3 years, right, I did do it at least a couple more times after that. And both times it was over 3 months. So I'm very curious to see where I end up in 3 months by just doing this application.
Yeah, and just to be clear, your current 1 rep max kettlebell press is somewhere around
40 kilos.
What? 40 kilos. So you can press the 40 kilo. You're starting this with the 24. So you're definitely taking the advice of starting light seriously.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I just think that, I think that's a point that gets missed a lot, and when I hear people talk about the program and they're starting to do it, they're going to the very heaviest weight they can handle, and that's not the point, right? I think the beauty of this is how much practice you get. And Pavel was on that Joe Rogan podcast recently, and he was talking about the the Russians and how they just kind of stay at a certain weight until it becomes like super easy before they jump up, and they do it for a long time. I feel like
Hmm.
this is the embodiment of that. And if there's anything that is the best part of this program, is how much practice you get with just a few things. And here's another point, right? So I'm alluding to the fact that there's few things that you practice. So you practice your clean and press, you practice your swings and your snatches for sure. You could do get-ups as a warm-up, you know, because in the preparation stage, that's what you're doing. You're doing swings and get-ups as practice, right? So you could do get-ups
Hmm.
as a warm-up. You can also do get-ups on your variety days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is, I would only advise that people do that if they're doing nothing else, right? Like, so when I was dancing, I wasn't doing any kettlebells unless it was like a scheduled day, because I was getting enough. And, the rest of the time I had my hands full with other activities. So
So for the original 3-year run back in 2005 through 2008, you were not really performing
I
variety
was not. The
days.
only time, there was only one time that I did, and that was in preparation for the TSC. And it was a very modest load. I was just really
Hmm.
starting to think about, like, trying to improve my deadlift. I felt like I was still learning the move. I mean, I wasn't really comfortable with it. But in preparation for the TSC, I think maybe like 4 months out, I just started to practice my deadlifts. And it was a very modest approach where I would go in there and do no more than 15 reps. So, obviously my numbers were not impressive when I went to the TSC. I think my first TSC I pulled 315, and the second,
At a body weight
at
of,
that time I was about 152.
okay, so we're in the double body weight plus category.
Yes, which at that time I didn't really have any notion what that meant. Now that I've been to SFL, I know that, that's there's something to that. There's also people out there pulling
Hmm.
3 times body weight, but for the average person out there, that's pretty respectable weight. And then when I redid the TSC the following year, I pulled 355. I want to say, so 355 or 350. So that was a pretty big jump. But again, I was basically a beginner for deadlift, so that was expected, and I was weighing the same, so I was still about lingering about 152. So that was, I felt happy about that for sure.
Okay, and now on your renewed version of Rite of Passage, do you have any soft plans for the types of things you're going to do on your variety day?
I do. So I have been doing a lot of body weight stuff. I was preparing for the SFL, I mean, the SFB in the spring, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend. But I did the work, so my body is very grooved in the one-arm push, and my body is very grooved in the pistol. So I thought that I would try to incorporate that on the variety days, because I'm no longer dancing or doing anything like that. But what I am doing on those variety days is doing like a little bit of body weight, very modest. I mean, we're talking about nothing exceeds 15 reps. And that's going to be something that I build up to. At this point, I'm probably just doing like more in the range of 5 per each move. Dragon flags, um, the pistol, of course. I'm not doing the one-arm push-up because, according to the advice in the book, like that would be a bit too much for your shoulders with the heavy pressing that you're doing. But I am doing a little bit of practice on front levers and back levers on the bars. Really focusing on higher quality of a pull-up. So before I would just get my chin over the bar. This time I'm really trying to emphasize getting my chest up to the bar and getting really high up there.
Yeah, I've seen some videos of you already with that practice, and the height you're achieving on the pull up is impressive, but you're also pausing at the top
It's
and
brief.
you're controlling your negative as well. Like there's a lot of tension in these pull ups. You're not just banging them
Yeah.
out.
Well, I think that is a function of the kind of volume that I was doing when I was doing the body weight stuff just a couple of months ago. I was doing a ton of pull. I was also doing ladders, actually. But, on some days I would do like 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And I would do that for, up to like 5 ladders. So that's a lot of volume. But also I wasn't doing any kettlebells, right? So my hands could take it. To me, the thing that really stops your efforts when it comes to volume with pull-ups and ballistics is the hands getting trashed. You know, I feel like sometimes, yeah, my body could probably do it, but you know, I want to train tomorrow, so I'm not going to trash my hands. So I just reel it in a little bit. But yeah, I feel like the volume that I put in with the bodyweight stuff those last few months, from January 1st through the end of March, it's really carrying over nicely into this phase. And we'll see how it goes. You know, one thing I would like to do is to also to start doing it with the 24. But the progression for that I would prefer would be to first do all of, you know, 1-to-1 ratio body weight with excellent form, better form than I had before. Then maybe I would add the 24 and bring it back down, or keep it at the 1-to-1 ratio, and then add the multiple, the 2-to-1, where I'm doing like 150 pull-ups on Saturdays. But
That's amazing.
we'll see.
So yeah, we will. We'll have to get you back on another call and see what really happened. And what is your hope at this? Like, I know you said you want to go for about 3 months and kind of see what happens, but do you have like a hope for the end of these 3 months?
I think for me, it's almost like nostalgia. I have to say, like, I honestly felt a little bit nostalgic about the program, and being in this circles, talking with other instructors all the time, seeing content out there. And you know, one of the things that we haven't talked about is how when I did those 3 years, and then at the end of those 3 years, I went to San Jose and got certified as an RKC. And to be honest with you, I didn't really practice as much as I think I should have to, all the other requirements, all the moves for the technique test and stuff like that. But just doing ETK had me completely prepared to do any of the other things that I did there. And that's something that...
Right. Now, Dan John has said that as well. He's promoted the Rite of Passage as a certification prep program.
Yeah, you know, and it's just so clear and so clean, and it's like right there. Just, you know, you can put a little mark on your book, a little thing to mark the pages, and it's about 3 pages where it's basically summarizing everything that you need to know. So, you know, it's just so straightforward. And honestly, people get bored, but there's a beauty to just doing this, just knowing what you're going to do for the next 3 months. And when you think about it, it's really simple. And if that simplicity is also adding to the rest of your stock to where you're not losing on any other side of that, then isn't that awesome? Like, isn't that like the most elegant thing ever? You know, like, so I'm practicing these 3 moves, but yet the whole stock, right? My bench presses, all of my skills for SFG2 and SFG1 are going to be there when I need them. I think that's awesome. You know, like, why wouldn't I take that? Like, give me 2, one of each color, you know?
That's awesome. So for anybody who has been, let's say, thinking about the Rite of Passage, you know, some people are newer to kettlebells and they're playing with them, they're doing program minimum. Like, what would you say? When would you personally suggest that somebody bump up to the Rite of Passage?
Well, you know, there's like a prerequisite in there, right? Where you're supposed to like practice, and until your get-ups and your clean and your swings are perfect, like, you shouldn't even start the program, you know. And then when you do start, I think it's really important to follow the guidelines about the ladders and how many your volume is being dictated. You know, by like, if you try to go all out on Saturday and you only get to 3, then you should be doing fewer on Monday and on Wednesday, right? So that you can prepare your body, because
we've both heard of people that just force the volume too quickly and
so
get
the
stuck.
problem with that is, on one side is you're adapting your tip along this line of stress that it's not optimal, because your technique is not optimal. So what you're doing is you're getting better at having poor form, and working too much over your ability is going to cause that. Now, if that was the only thing, then it wouldn't be so bad. But in addition to that, you run the risk of getting hurt, and then you're out for a while. And then, it's just not, it's just better to be patient in the beginning. Like, I easily, listen, when I read the advice, it said, for an average man, an average gentleman, I believe is what it says, you should get a 16 kilo. If you're above average strength, then maybe a 24. Honestly, I think I could have done the 24, but I did myself a favor by buying that 20, because even though I pretty quickly got up to those 5 ladders on Saturdays, and it kind of creeped up in my head, like, maybe I should be doing more. But I was like, well, it's not about that. It's really about the movement and about doing it perfectly. And having that mindset from the beginning is what has allowed me to do it for a long time, because I wasn't getting hurt. And when you don't get hurt, you can train more frequently and with greater intensity, and you keep getting results even from a lightweight. And I think that's the big challenge that people have. It's like, oh, I need to do more, I need to do more. No, you don't. You need to get better at what you're already doing, and the more will come in time effortlessly, just like he says. I mean, that's part of the whole philosophy behind the book. It's like almost like easy strength in a way. Well, that's a different program, but you know what I mean.
Right. No, I do hear what you're saying. The we don't need to test the body with maximal weight,
right,
to strengthen it.
I mean, if you can do 75 reps with a 24 kilo every Saturday for a few months, trust me, you're in good shape. I don't think you should be concerned about that, but in today's environment, especially, back then we didn't have Instagram or anything like that. So all of this wonderful, accomplishments that I had along the way, and the discipline and all that, it was just, hey man, like, you have to be happy with that yourself, because there's no one out there trying to celebrate it with you. But in today's world, it's like you see Johnny Musclehead over there trying to do like the beast. And it's like, how long have you been training with kettlebells? Oh, like a year. And you're already doing this like with that much weight? Like, your technique is very poor, And so then they break, and, it's like, oh, I'm going to change it up on this day. And I'm like, but that's not the program. If you're changing it up every couple of weeks and doing some crazy variety thing, and just for the sake of adding variety, then you're missing the point. And worst of all, you're missing the true benefit and power of this regime. This thing it's like magic, man. I've just never done anything so simple that yielded such a great result, such a great gain on your investment. And that's what I wish people would really like. If you're going to take anything away from what I'm trying to tell you, it's like, give it the time. Be prudent with your approach, both in volume and with the intensity, as far as the weight goes, and your performance will explode. I guarantee it.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I love talking to you about the Rite of Passage, because you're always so passionate about it. And it is exciting, being that I'm into kettlebells as well. And it's always fun to hear people talk about the things that got them into it, the reasons they do it, and why they're still excited about it. So it was a pleasure to kind of go back in time and hear the origin story again. And I do look forward, like I said, to catching up with you later after this 3 months, and kind of see where you're at and talk to you more about
awesome.
What the results were.
I'm looking forward to sharing that with you in a few months. Hopefully, it's something positive to share. I'm sure it will be. So no pressure, right? But I thank you for having me, and looking forward to talking again.
All right, man.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.